I did have to disengage a couple of times. So full self-driving is definitely not solved yet.
Look, it's not like I want to make these videos. I have a love-hate relationship for Tesla and Tesla's stock because Elon's predictions so far have been so far off and so wrong that it kind of breaks my soul a little bit because I want to see this come into fruition. But when Waymo and these other self-driving companies already have fully self-driving vehicles on the road, it's starting to make me think that LiDAR might have been the more appropriate, way of starting, because at least we would have had actual revenues and starting growth for this today. So I'm gonna break down this video, and unlike the Tesla pumpers out there, I actually am on the ground floor watching people that use this stuff religiously or on the forefront of these software updates. Now, one of my favorite quotes that recently came out of Tesla, before I share with you the clips that kind of break my heart, I thought this was hilarious. Jim Cramer says Tesla could hit $1 trillion market cap soon. This was on July 10th, and Elon made this thing that was absolutely hilarious. It's almost as if Jim Cramer has a secret deal with the stock market gods to always be wrong. Maybe he should start a new show called Mad Money, the opposite edition, where he gives the exact opposite advice of what he was actually thinking. And, and we'd be swimming in Tesla shares and laughing our way to the bank. But hey, at least we know one thing for sure. If Cramer says Tesla's going to the moon, it's probably time to start digging a bunker and stocking up on canned goods, because the apocalypse must be nigh. And this thing is so hilariously accurate, because since July 10th, Tesla stock is now down 20%, and Elon has been basically scammering around since the last earnings report to, actually figure out where the growth for Tesla's coming from, because it isn't coming from the cars, it isn't coming from self-driving or robotics. And as far as we can tell, they're pivoting to more or less promoting, their energy solutions. So again, my love-hate relationship comes with the fact that I bought Tesla in 2019, right before the absolutely absurd pump, when people were hating on it religiously, and Elon was promising me that full self-driving was going to be ready by the end of 2019. He said the same thing in 2020. 2021, he kind of stopped saying it. Hell, if you go back to like 2017, he was saying it's going to be ready in the next year or two. And here we sit, right? Like, I sold out of my entire Tesla position. I made an insane gain in this account of 302%, which is like tripling the NASDAQ. But I can't bring myself to hold Tesla stock because it's far too damn risky for the value you're paying for this kind of half-assed junk. And I know that's a rude statement, because self-driving is amazing. It's so good, but it's not self-driving ready robotaxi good. And just take a listen to this guy out of his own mouth testing the damn software.
So we have to turn a little bit more to the left side. We're too far out, so the car needs to correct itself to... No, don't do that. It's a red light. Why do you try to proceed? Okay, I disengage right there because it's trying to proceed when it's a red light right here. You can see that it's a red light, and I'm definitely too far out. Okay, so I'm making the turn right here, because if it had made a turn right there, it will turn into these tracks. So I took the turn right there. It tried to proceed on red. And I forgot to send a note to Full Self Driving. And that was one of the comments I had was, please send notes to Tesla after you disengage. And I think I definitely try to send notes to Tesla, but if I disengage, it's usually because I'm in a not safe scenario. And when I do disengage, I just want to make sure I'm safe. Okay, let's go. Green light, let's go. Okay, I was about to push on the pedal, but I didn't, because it made that it move ahead. But yeah, when I disengage, it's because I'm in a non-safe situation, and my job is try to make sure I'm safe. You're stopping way behind. Let's move forward a little bit. Let me push the pedal a little bit. Let me make sure it can make this turn before I continue with my thoughts. Okay, let me just make sure. Okay, yeah, I don't want to curb. But yeah, as I was saying, I only disengage because it's not safe, and I spend the next few seconds trying to make sure I'm safe, and by the time I assure that I'm safe and ready to send a note, the prompt disappears. This time it was safe, but I just was too surprised that it wanted to turn on a red light, that when I disengage, I completely forgot about it.
So there's a few things that stick out to me from this. The first thing that blows my mind is that if you're in an unsafe situation, you can't even send why you disengaged to the cloud, because you have to manually send this stuff to Tesla, right? Which is delaying Obviously, the updates required to make this more efficient, but it feels like we're like 95% of the way to full self-drive. I've seen some absurdly incredible videos. I know people right now that don't have to disengage anywhere because of where their location is. The self-driving software just works sufficiently, but not as sufficiently as Google's Waymo, because they're using other software and LiDAR and other systems to have redundancies, right? Whereas Tesla doesn't have a lot of redundancies built into this, and they're fully controlled by basically the software and the advancements in, you know, their large language models or whatever they're using at their headquarters here, which he's showing the AI supercomputer here. And I feel like this is where all the attention right now is going, as they are struggling to get this problem solved. And how much compute power from here does it take to get that last few percentage points that would allow them to launch? Because you got to imagine they can't just launch this shit. I mean, you're going to have millions of cars that are going to run into issues like we saw with this guy. And when it is a self-driving taxi network, you can't do that. You can't even have a couple percentage points of problems, because it is going to be so wide scale that it's not going to know how to correct itself. Whereas Waymo has people sitting behind a desk, and when those disengagements come into play, they can actually correct it manually, and having one person maybe keeping an eye on 10, 20, 30, 50 cars who actually knows. So Tesla's delays that robotaxi event, and it's a blow to Musk's autonomy drive. And something tells me, even if they release, or you know, they push it back to October to show this vehicle, it isn't going to be a robotaxi that you're going to probably see on the road probably for another couple years. I just don't know at what scale or how much compute power it takes to make this efficiently enough where the accidents and the disengagements are so low that it's less than if a human was driving and having accidents. Because if you can get just to the level of human accidents, then you're pretty much good. Like if you just get slightly below human accidents, then you can start adjusting for the ones that do come into play, because it's never going to be perfect, but it's still not perfect enough. And this kind of breaks my heart, right? Because I'm relentlessly paying attention, and whenever they're on the cusp where I feel like it's ready, that robotaxis are going to be a thing, then like I'd buy it. But I feel like it's largely hype. Like they'll release this vehicle, but they'll be like, oh, it's still another year out before we're actually going to start introducing robotaxis. Now, are we going to be allowed to buy the vehicle as like a low end, cheaper, you know, Tesla model to be like a mass scale product? I don't know. None of us actually know, right? So when I look at like the actual core intelligence here and the miles driven, like we have no projection. No one's telling us like where we actually need to be to solve this problem, because it feels like we've been so close for so damn long. And like I said, it really breaks my heart, because when we look at the growth right now, like you're taking on so much absurd risk for this revenue to come into play. Because I mean, you look at this, right? Like on the last earnings, the only thing Elon was promoting is look at the energy generation and storage revenue. This is a huge growth beast, but we were all fixated on the true value unlocking again, I'm a guy that wants to retire early here, right? Like if you got 10, 20, 30 years, you want to wait for this stock and you love it and you're going to hold it, go for it, right? Like I'm a guy that wants to make money. And if I own Tesla stock, you know, anytime within the last 5 years, I haven't made any money. No dividends, no nothing. I put most of that money into the S&P 500 and other stocks that have absolutely slaughtered the performance of Tesla. It's like one of these companies where it's going to flatline for a decade before the value, you know, comes into play. And I don't want to wait that long. I just don't. And when that value comes back into play and stocks start pumping, I'll just trade it, swing trade it. I'll buy back into it. And we'll see the revenue, you know, generation take back off again. But like, how big is energy storage going to get? Are we going to see 100% growth just quarter over quarter from here on in? By next year, we're going to be at $6 billion. I don't know. Nobody actually knows. But for now, we're at 2% revenue growth. Like, you know, it's absolutely abysmal. I mean, it's just hilariously abysmal for this, you know, Magnificent Seven tech-oriented growth company that's just been on the cusp of something that we've been lied to about when it's going to be completed. And, you know, so I'm just sitting here looking at the EV market being like, if you're buying Tesla for the future of EVs, you know, BYD is crushing them in China right now. Hybrids have all of a sudden exploded past EVs, and all the big traditional automakers are switching to hybrid rather than EVs. I still believe EVs are the most efficient solution, you know, to the future of the vast majority of people driving. And this is really hindering that growth because Elon is just not running a whole lot of ads. I don't think people understand. Like I argue with my dad and so many people about how much more efficient electric vehicles are because they think that there's so many problems by like this propaganda bullshit that we've seen over the years come out where people just want to make fun of Tesla for like, you know, when winter sucks and their batteries aren't as good, even though ICE vehicles have a lot less efficiency in winter as well and all this stuff. Like I said, I have a love-hate relationship with Elon and Tesla, but we are still not ready for full self-driving. And, you know, I don't know what that means for the stock. I'm certainly not going to short it. But like I said, when I bought into this, I thought the stock fair value was between 100 150 bucks. I bought it, you know, basically if we look at year to date, I bought it all through here, presuming the stock was going to go down. Did it go down? No, it skyrocketed up. I sold it up here, and I'm still not willing to buy it at this value, knowing that we still have no idea what the growth looks like or what's happening with the EV market. So I'd love to know what you think in that comment section below.